here. Yeah, I will. So we've had a little change of scenery. I know some of you guys have come before. So unfortunately, Ginny, who normally does the cafe, she has to step down due to school and just crazy life in general, as we all know. So I'm going to be taking over the cafes, but tonight I am joined by Bailey, and she's going to help facilitate the conversation because I will be speaking tonight. So since it's a small group, I know some of you, most of you, but Bailey, I don't think doesn't. So we're gonna open the floor to introductions. Bailey, if you want to start us off and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Bailey. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm a community social worker in Central Ohio. And I'm the governance and bylaws person on the board. I'm not articulate today. I just came out of a 3-hour Zoom meeting. But I'm super excited to see all of your faces and to meet you all and listen to Augusta's amazing wisdom and work experience. She's so dope, and I can't wait to hear all about her work and the questions we have for her. Do we want to popcorn it?
Sure.
I'll send it over to Rebecca.
Which one?
Shoot! Oh my God, Rebecca Stevens, go for it.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm really happy to be here. I was at the last cafe for the first time. I'm actually based in England, in the UK. Bailey, I'm not that articulate either because it's 1 o'clock in the morning, but I'm here because I have a vested interest in veterinary social work and pursuing veterinary social work here in the UK. So thank you for having me.
Welcome again. Excited for you to join us.
Thank you.
Pass it to the other Rebecca.
Hi, good evening. My name is Rebecca Reynante. You can call me Becky if you want. I'm a licensed clinical social worker out of the state of Virginia. This is my second cafe. So hello, everyone. Hope you're doing great. Nice to be here. Nice to see you.
And Megan, if you want to go.
Sure. Hey, everyone. I haven't been in a little while, but I've come to a few of these. So I'm up in British Columbia in Canada. I work for an animal welfare organization in science and policy. So I have a science background, but I'm actually like 40 hours away from finishing my final practicum for my BSW. so excited that the end is in sight. I'm looking forward to next steps and always enjoy these conversations so much. So glad to be here again.
That leaves me. Hey, I'm Shani Hoffman. I am an LCSW. I am in Jacksonville, Florida, and I am still plugging away at my Keystone project. So
You're so close to the end, though.
I know.
Getting there. You are getting there.
Good to see y'all.
Me too. So dive in about myself. Let's see. I always never know when to start. Since it's a small group, I guess I'll go back a little further. But I got my start in human-animal bond from a young age, like most people. I moved around a lot as a child, so my animals were my best friends. I wanted to be a veterinarian for the longest time. That was my goal. I went to college, everything. I failed my first biology class in college. I was like, maybe not. Let's rethink this. I took a psychology class to make up the credits and fell in love with it. I really enjoyed that aspect. So then I was like, okay, maybe I'll do some animal psychology, animal behavior. That would be really cool. Did some work with that and did, traditional summer jobs, graduated, got involved in a vet clinic as an assistant, loved it, was in the ICU, super tough. Nobody wanted to be in there, but I really loved it because that's where the families got to come in and like spend time with their animals. And we had a lot more human interactions, and I actually really enjoyed that. And so everyone's like, okay, great. I guess I can keep dealing with the clients. Great. And I got paired up with this amazing veterinarian who actually graduated from the University of Tennessee. And she was talking to me about different avenues. And she said there was a person that they used to talk to. She didn't know what they were, but they would go to her after a really tough case or tough day. And she was like, I think it was a social worker or something. Went home that night, found the program at UTK, applied for it. A few months later, got accepted. And I originally went into, got some people in the waiting room, familiar faces as well. Hi guys. I am sharing my lovely, how I stumbled across VSW. So yeah, I applied. I originally wanted to attend to actually do animal assisted interventions. I had a dream to have a farm and to do therapeutic riding and just all animals, cows, pigs, everything, because I really liked working with teenagers. So did my master's program, did 2 years of community-based mental health, so a lot of chronic mental health issues. I'm in Southern Maine, so there's a lot of trauma and foster kids in this area. So I did a lot of work with them, really enjoyed it. But then I started diving more back into the veterinary field because I missed that. And that's where a lot of my friends were. And I could start to see that struggle. And then COVID happened. So kind of the rest is in the history books at this point. I connected with Aviva. So I make note for her. She did a lot of this. So networking is huge in VSW, as we know. And that's where I got more involved with animal assisted interventions. And that's where I teach the certificate for postgraduates, which obviously that's how some of you guys know me. And then I also, right now, I am the director of veterinary social work for AlignCare, which is under the program for pet health equity, which is at the University of Tennessee College of Social Work. And that is I think my big passion project right now is just expanding veterinary access to low income people and families. I stumbled across that position, applied for it, and worked my way up. And it's just been really cool to work with communities to align different resources and agencies. We work with animal welfare organizations, social service agencies, all these people that operate in silos, but really bringing them together for the common denominator of keeping families together. So it's definitely something that I had no idea. I knew it existed, but to have a role in it as a social worker is really interesting and is really cool to be a part of. So I do that. I also do some private practice stuff where I work with animal shelters and providing mental health work groups and individual psychotherapy, bunch of different things. I volunteer with NOMVI, doing internships. I help supervise their interns because they are rolling out a program now too to help with the workplace environment to increase the mental health aspect of that. So that's been really cool to be a part of that on the ground. And now I'm the vice president of the association, and I love talking to people about this stuff and answering any questions. And yeah, it's just a great field to be a part of, and networking is super powerful. I mean, I met Allison through the certificate program as well, and now all of you guys I've seen multiple times. So it's definitely a really cool field to be a part of. So, capture, I think, everything I'm doing. So yeah, I'm interested to see if brainstorming or just talking about directions or questions that you guys have. if I don't know it, I know somebody that does.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
It's
Go
always
for it,
the
Rob.
way, isn't it? No, you go.
Are you sure? Okay.
Yeah.
I was just wondering about the impact of, because I know it's North America, if not global, with the veterinary shortage and like the difficulty of getting appointments and stuff. I know even personally, on the impact of that on the AlignCare program. So it's facilitating, like helping people out, but then are they actually able to? Is that a challenge for them to actually then be able
Yeah.
to see the vet?
Yeah, so I definitely am aware, because that's one of the things I don't want to, the program doesn't want to burden and bring even more families to this already, like you said, already shortened field. So one thing that we do is when we partner with veterinary clinics, we look at the population they're already dealing with, that they're already struggling to give the care for. So we do a lot of referrals through them. So families that are already coming through their door wanting help and needing help, and that actually they've said helps them, because they're like, they're already dealing with them. We couldn't help them. We didn't know how to help them. And then this program came in and kind of helped lessen the load a little bit. But yeah, I do a lot of check-ins with our clinics to make sure that they're doing okay. And we now, we've just launched in Los Angeles this week. We hired our first embedded social worker in the community. So it's not virtual anymore. She's in person. She'll be able to go to the clinics and provide more support, because we know virtually
It's not the
you
same.
don't say everything you want to say. So yeah, that's something that we've definitely been a part of and been aware of.
Thanks.
Yeah. Becca.
Yeah, I suppose my question was a little bit similar in that I'm really interested to know, you said there's a shortage. And I guess if you are trying to bridge the gap between traditional social work and veterinary social work, do you set you as a veterinary social worker, do you set yourself, are you in private practice? Are you self-employed, or are you employed by veterinary clinics or hospitals? And how do you get your referrals? Because obviously as a social worker, you know, we work with vulnerable people, but how do you apply yourself, or how do you sort of get into that realm as a veterinary social worker?
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good question. I know, at least here in the United States, there's been a bigger push for the corporations that buy out like the private practices. Clinics have started to recognize the importance of vet social workers. So they're starting to hire more. And we see that happening more with the corporates, because they have more money and they're able to employ more people. So that's been really common. So they will post for just social workers, or they'll specifically ask for vet social workers. So that's one way that we can get employed with social workers. Like Allison, for example, works with a clinic that she knows. I do that too. I wear my logo and my VSW swag essentially, and they're like, "What's that?" So just natural advertisements, and then working with them. Pro bono work, just to kind of get them used to the idea, because a lot of the times they want to know what it is, but it's also therapy, so they're kind of standoffish sometimes, honestly. And then so the private practice I do by referral. So with NOMVI, it helps, which is an international one, so you might want to look to see if there's any chapters in your area. You can't advertise on them, but if you do kind of word of mouth, they will add you to their list of resources, so that you are then a social worker that is trained up and skilled up with this population. So that was one way to do it, private practice. And then referrals, just putting it out there that this is a specialty of yours, just like you would with cognitive behavioral therapy. I do that. And it spreads pretty quickly when yes, thank you. Not one more vet. So that is a big organization that deals with mental health within the veterinary community. So those are a few ways to do it.
That's amazing to hear that, veterinary social work, really started where you are in the States, and you're still having to, after, all these years, you're still having to make yourself known and promote yourself.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it was like that. I thought it was more generally accepted in the wider community. But I suppose given that it's a speciality, so I don't know, there's a social work over in England and Australia is, it doesn't have a very good public profile and a reputation, traditional social work. And so that's interesting to hear, veterinary social work is still having to really promote yourselves more widely as a speciality field of social work.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think with most mental health, there's always that stigma associated with it sometimes. So, and that's where it helps to, and it's not a requirement, but I found that it's helpful when the social worker has some background in the animal field, because it definitely helps bridge that gap. I mean, just like anything, you want to know that your therapist knows what you're talking about and understands what you're talking about. It definitely helps. So I know Keisha and then Allison. And then you were driving.
I am driving. Well, actually, I'm a passenger. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
I am wonderful. I just had a question. I was reading the last email that I received from IAVSW, and it was talking about the Association for Animal Assisted Interventions Professionals, that partnership.
Yes.
And I was wondering, what is that all about?
So that is something that they had some connections. Let me pull it up. So Pet Partners has created their certificate for the whole long acronym that I am horrible with remembering, and Bailey is probably looking it up for me. So what they're doing is basically offering a certificate for professionals that want to do animal assisted interventions. So it's almost like a step up from the traditional VSW UTK. It's all about animal assisted interventions and how to do it in the best practice. So what we've done is partner with them. Our members get a discounted rate to their program, and then their members also get a discounted rate for our memberships. So I believe it's $15 or $30 off of their certificate program. And then we also, when they offer CEs, we can market them, and our members can access those CEs as well. Yes, AAAIP.
Sounds wonderful. So even though I'm working already in animal assisted interventions, would it be a good idea for me to actually get another certificate?
I think because of the work that you're doing and you're such a big program, I definitely think it would help. If anything, it would boost the confidence. And I'm happy to get more information from Taylor, because like I said, it just launched this year. And it's a full certificate program as well. Myself and Aviva, I think we're going to start doing that next year, I believe is what our partnership was. So they join our memberships and we join theirs. And I can definitely get more information for you too. Yeah.
Right, wonderful. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Hello, Allison.
Hello. One thing on the Animal Assisted Pet Partnership, they started out years and years ago, since I'm probably one of your oldest veterinary social workers around. They started out being a therapy dog for like working in hospitals and helping people, not so much as social workers using dogs in actual cognitive type therapy treatment like we do as veterinary social workers and working with people with the animal human bond. But they're an incredible organization. They were called Pet Partners years ago, and they merged into becoming what they're called now. And they do amazing things. They're at airports helping people with trauma and people with therapy about getting on and off of airplanes, things like that. And I think that, like you just said, anything that you can do to continue to spread your collaborations and your what you're doing out there, and just the more certificates we have, the more things that people realize what we're knowledgeable about is always really good. I did want to bring up for Rebecca about working with veterinarians. And one of the things that I find, I work in my clinic and I have worked with my veterinarian, and that's how I did my clinic. That's where I did my internship for my VSW and everything else. I've worked with Kim since 1996 with my head doctor. Not my head doctor, but the head doctor of the clinic. And she still is difficult for me to work with. I adore her. We're friends. We've known each other forever, but she is of the old school that she can handle everything in the practice. And a lot of veterinarians that are old school believe that they're supposed to handle everything. And so she is difficult for me at times when somebody will come to us that has an emotional need. It's like, we can handle it. And so they're very stoic about stuff, and they don't want to have a social worker there helping them. And she's getting a little bit better each time. And since the pandemic, I haven't been in the practice a lot. I've always been there pro bono for them. And, you know, we're almost 2 years out now from this. And every time I say to her, when do you want me back? You know, I've never been there full time, but I've been there at least, you know, half a day, several days a week. When do you want me? We'll talk about it next month. We'll talk about it next month. So she's still really resistant to having somebody there, where the younger doctors are all on board, you know, lunch hour activities. I've, you know, brought them baskets of things to do for stress and stuff like that, and staff. And every time I was just there, I took my 2 dogs in for their yearly exam, and I didn't even know. I mean, I haven't been in 3 months, but I do a lot of phone calls for people call me, and I talk to clients constantly, but I'm not necessarily in the clinic that much. But don't even know half the staff anymore because they still have high turnover. And I think that that's one of the things that any of you that are in clinics will see. There's huge turnover in vet tech staff, and just a lot of chaos with that. So I think that's one of the most difficult things I see about getting into a clinic as a veterinary social worker, when you're working with middle, you know, 50 and up age doctors, that they're of the old school, that they manage everything in their clinics. But the younger doctors are the ones that I'm finding that I do work with or talk to are really excited about veterinary social work, and especially new clinics that have reached out and are excited about it. And one area that I think is really good, and I'm working with some veterinarians, is grief and loss. Huge need for grief and loss. I worked with a vet today, and behavior euthanasia is also another area that is becoming very, it's no longer a shame thing, and people are beginning to realize that it's necessary, and it's something that, and I don't know, this is something to consider that we might want to be expanding on, is that it's becoming more important that people accept it and acknowledge that we can't keep rehoming these rescues or doing whatever is going to happen with the rescues. And behavior euthanasia is going to possibly be the thing that we have to accept, that there's going to be a 2-year-old dog that is just not right in the head, and it can't be rehomed, and we're going to have to start doing more BEs. So today I did a consult with somebody about what do we do with a 5-year-old in the home, because the dogs are great in people's homes, and these dogs are good with the families, but it's everybody else in the family. They're resource guarding an entire family. And in this instance, a child's, the cousin was bit in the face. And so, but those are just things that it's opening up a whole new world for us. So, in different things.
But I think that goes into too, starting to see the need more in animal shelters for social workers, and building that, because they deal with a lot of secondhand trauma, and what Allison was going through of they really want to save them all. So how to help them through that. And I, like I said, I really enjoy kind of that aspect of helping them with increasing trauma-informed care, but also helping them identify, okay, this is what you're feeling, like very basic things that they necessarily weren't, because they come from a different background than traditional veterinarians and technicians, that they didn't have the exposure to what's compassion fatigue, what's moral distress, all these things. So it's just really nice sometimes just to get down to the basics and kind of see them go, oh, this makes a lot of sense. Like, this is what's happening. This is what I'm feeling. So that's been a really interesting thing. And I know more animal shelters are hiring social workers as well. Yeah. You know, just basic education and things like that. We in AlignCare, we have a really upcoming community that is utilizing for young African American men. They're using dog training as kind of like the into mental health, and it's a really cool bridge, which goes back to animal assisted interventions. Even though the base is AlignCare, it just shows that all the VSW components always play into each other. Even if you go into this field thinking, I am only going to do therapy with dogs, nope, everything bleeds in. Yeah. Because I have to. Does anyone have any questions about the summit that I can answer? I've been answering so many emails. So if anyone has questions about the summit, our speakers, it's happening in October 14th through the 16th.
Out of interest, do you know how many people have signed up to attend in addition to the speakers?
So in addition, we have 100 with everyone so far. It really starts to pick up in the last week. So we have about, pull it up. We have about 50. Now there are some speakers that are like doubling up and stuff, and they have co-presenters, but we have about 50 to 60 speakers. Yeah, there's a ton of sessions, which the agenda is posted right now. So you can actually see the agenda before registering.
Do we have to, because you know I'm speaking, but do we have to register to attend sessions?
You can
How is it?
Yeah, you can still attend sessions. So you should be able, there's going to be an attendee website. So when it gets closer, you'll be able to go in and select the sessions that you want to do. And that's how you will also get your speaker information.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. And we
just wasn't sure whether that has happened yet or not.
No, the platform's a beast. I will tell you that. We're not doing traditional Zoom. So there's a lot of things that we're still doing, a lot of design stuff that's going into it. And then we still do have a number of scholarships left too for speakers and attendees. So if you need, you just message at info@IAVSW and it comes to me. So all of it comes to me. I think somebody's like, oh, I should have figured that this was going to be you. You're just like the Oz behind the curtain. At this point.
Hi, I don't have a question about the summit. I'm excited about it. I haven't registered for it yet, but I will. I have a question. I need some help from hopefully you all for just some suggestions. I own a company called Ohana Pet Care, and we have been trying to find a veterinary social worker. And we are located in two places. We're in Louisville, Kentucky, and Vancouver, Washington. Washington is an easier place, but Kentucky, we have been struggling to find a registered social worker in the state of Kentucky with a veterinary social work certificate. there are none as far as what I've been able to find. I have been searching high and low for months, and I just can't find a single person who is licensed in Kentucky with a veterinary social work certificate. So we've been trying to expand to other social workers who might have specialized specialty in like grief, compassion, fatigue, trauma. But it's like there's so many boxes to check off that veterinary social work just has all of them. Like grief, compassion, fatigue, animals, that's perfect. That's what we need. So finding a social worker, we have to go down the list of everything that we need that a veterinary social worker would just be able to have. So what I'm wondering is with telehealth, is there like a loophole where if someone is a veterinary social worker, they can provide telehealth to people in different states? I just don't know what to do next because we just can't find one. Oh no, I have not posted on the NASW board.
Are you a part of the VSW listserv?
No.
Okay. So that what the listserv is the University of Tennessee, their certificate program and like all of their connections on one mass email. So a lot of the times we'll post things about resources or jobs, things like that. So I'm happy to put out feelers for that because I know it's more of a rural area, so you're not going to have as much pool to pull from. But telehealth, yes, can definitely work. With that, it just goes back to licensing. So cross state lines, things like that. For AlignCare, when I do veterinary social work, as long as I'm not diagnosing and providing psychotherapy, I can do VSW supports across state lines. Like I do it in California, I'm in Maine. You have to be very aware of what you're doing to make sure that you're not teetering on psychotherapy. But a lot of the times, embedded social workers, we don't want them to provide long-term psychotherapy anyways, just because you don't want to go to therapy where you're also working for long-term, so you refer out. So it's not too different. So telehealth could definitely work. There's obviously some barriers to that, which I'm sure you're aware of. It's harder to form a relationship and be more present. So all of that kind of stuff is definitely possible. And two, one of my thinkings is VSWs are great, but we can also, like you said, you can be trained. So medical social workers do very similar things. So maybe finding somebody that wants to switch roles. Social workers get burnt out. We want to change up roles and jobs as well. So maybe looking into that. You could also do different types of mental health as well. So you have licensed marriage, their family counselors, LPC, all the acronyms. So there's different routes that kind of come to my mind. But telehealth's definitely, and I'll look into the listserv too to see if anybody knows of anyone.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have reached out to the veterinary social work program at UTK a number of times, and I have not gotten an email back. I just don't want to blow their inbox up. I've sent about 5 emails in the last, 4 or 5 months. It's just, I'm like, you know what? They're probably busy.
I can do a post as on behalf of the IAVSW. So
yeah, it's we just don't have anything in Kentucky. It's a great need. I am in grad school right now for social work, and I'm planning on becoming a veterinary social worker. But I obviously can't provide those services yet. It's been on my mind for about 10 years. And it's very difficult. It is very, very difficult having conversations with our clients about things that I know if we just had someone to give them the resources, but we just don't. I know people are there, like all of you all, but we just don't have anyone here. And it's almost a daily occurrence when someone's talking to me about their geriatric dog who can't walk anymore. And I had a client the other day who said, it's very hard to love him right now. And, you know, it's a relatable thing. And it just hurts. It really hurts that I can't just be like, let's get you an appointment, that I can't do that.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of anxious about it. Like I want that resource available. There are just so many barriers and so many hoops to jump through. And I wish that it didn't have to be that way.
Yeah. Are you looking for full-time, or have you looked into like contracting? Maybe somebody could offer at least maybe 5 to 10 hours a week, starting off, like something better than nothing.
So we are going to be contracting LCSW, who's providing full-time care at a local group. So we just today launched our wait list so that we can get an idea of the demand. I'm imagining that it would be like 10 to 15 hours a week to start, because people are apprehensive about this kind of thing. People don't really know about this as an option. So eventually I would love to have a whole team of full-time veterinary social workers, but to start, I think it's going to be slow growing. So yeah, we just started a wait list. I do not know the demand yet, but I feel like it should be high.
Yeah. Go ahead, Allison.
That's basically what I do for my clinic. And I do it basically through telephone calls. Rarely do I even do a telehealth with somebody. When they have a client that we're dealing with older people, or then I will go into the clinic, especially when we have to do a euthanasia. I do go in and meet with that person if I've talked to them on the phone and stuff. And I'm just the social worker that's there talking to them and expressing to them about what's going to be in the best interest for them, that becomes the best interest for their animal. Because you have to remember, we're not treating the animal, we're treating the human. So it's not my job to tell them that their 14-year-old dog that's blind and has no teeth needs to be put to sleep. It's for me to support them in the decision making. It's the vet's job to tell them about what the dog's health needs are. And so I think that you could probably find people like we're talking about putting, them through a telehealth program or whatever, and you don't necessarily need someone on site to do that. And you could probably find people that could do that for you through telehealth and do that, or even telephone and contract with them to do it. And then depending upon what the dog needs to go down, how you're going to handle that within the clinic, or they could still telehealth through the clinic. I don't know how you would do that, but I'm locally here, go do that with my clients and stuff, but I'm sure you could find people through telehealth to do something like that.
Yeah. So I'll start off with kind of the listserv and let you know if anybody comes back with any feelers. But like Bailey said, there's a few online peer support groups for families that we can probably put that together for you as well. I can add that to the email. And Megan, thanks for waiting.
No worries. So I guess my question is considering this path, and I've discovered through this degree that I'm really interested in macro work, because that's kind of what I do already, is policy research kind of stuff. So veterinary social work to me seems very clinical. And so I was wondering, even within the certificate, would there be room for people like me? Is there space in the veterinary social work world for people that aren't necessarily wanting to be per se client front facing?
Oh yeah. Aviva is our macro person, because
okay.
I started out clinical. Like I said, I was like, I'm going to do direct clinical work. And then it turned into macro in like a year. And it was I was like, I don't want to do macro. I don't want to do grant writing and policies. I don't want to do it. But I really enjoy it. It's really cool to be a part of like that macro work. I was like, oh, this is that feeling that people get excited about. So there definitely is work in the macro field. I mean, just for example, with the access to vet care, that's like a social justice movement that is macro as you can get. And also legislation changing. I'm just thinking for service animals, ESAs, things like that, like macro work to be done, animal assisted interventions with billing and trying to get lobbying for that, program writing, program directors, definitely a lot of macro work. So I feel like it's about 50-50. A lot of people come in thinking that they're going to be clinical, and then they start getting into the field and they're like, oh, it doesn't really matter. I'm doing all three of them in one day sometimes. So yeah,
the variety is what's fun, right? I think
it definitely mixes it up. And like I said, I kind of check all the boxes because I feel like personally it helps me with my burnout. Like if I'm getting too much in the weeds with my clients, I can go back up to the macro level and feel like I'm making a bigger difference sometimes. So there's definitely work for it.
Thanks.
Yeah, go ahead, Allison.
I came from over 20 years macro background, working in government, doing all programs and all of that stuff. And I wanted to get into actually being able to be a therapist. And I find that I split the practice that I'm affiliated to. I do my macro work for and help them. And then I'm writing right now a program, doing the macro side of it and doing that. So like George said, we do, Augusta said we do that, you know, we split the stuff that you do. I think that as social workers, we can't help but do both. That's kind of what we are. And you'll just find where the fit's going to be for you. And I think that's the beauty of what I love about veterinary social work. If you remember, we have 4 levels in veterinary social work. And so each of those levels has a little bit of both to it anyway, when we're doing things. So that's where you can kind of pick and choose. And in every one of those levels, there's the hands-on, and then there's the policy and whatever we need to do with all of that. So that's the beauty of it, I really think. And that's what I love about it. So my dogs are going to bark there.
The public health aspect to Bailey, zoological, like that's definitely growing. And that's something that we want to see more of, how to incorporate kind of the nature and the environmental piece into the human animal bond as things start evolving. And yeah, I mean, that's a whole other pillar in itself, the impacts of environment on the human animal bond. So many options.
Outside of you know, the speakers and the presentations for the summit, can you share more about like the other activities, whether networking or updates that'll be involved for folks?
Yeah, so we are doing community circles. So every day, throughout the day, there's going to be break-off groups to help people that are in similar areas of the world geographically, to help with connecting and networking. We're going to be doing that. The race to vet happiness that was launched back in May for animal losing steam here for animal workers. That's not the word. That is not the people that work in the vet field. Agree. To help kind of raise awareness of positive mental health and positive psychology. So that's ongoing, and we're announcing our grand prize winner at the summit. So that's going to be happening. We have a keystone with Dr. Elizabeth Strand, who started the program at University of Tennessee. She's going to be talking on the first day. And then we have a really cool panelist keynote speakers on the last day, talking more about environmental work within the VSW. That we have 4 sessions happening like every 60 to 90 minutes. We're doing that. I feel like I'm missing something. We've been doing a lot of planning. But yeah, we're trying to make it as interactive as possible for an online summit. So this is our second year doing it online. We're hoping for another good turnout. Does that answer the question, Bill?
Can I ask, do you know which countries around the world have veterinary social workers?
Yeah, right now we have England, Australia, Nigeria. We have some people from South America joining us, Canada, and the United States. I think that's it. Nigeria is our new one. We have a few speakers from Nigeria talking about the link between animal-human bonds, and then also the work that they're doing starting in their veterinary colleges as well. That'll be really cool.
So you said this, yeah, because I'm interested to know where there are veterinary social, there are none, to my knowledge, in England, unless you know.
We have,
There are some.
I say she isn't. So I have, the connection that I have is Liv. She is positive psychologist. So she does a lot with, where is she? I want to say she's like Central England. And then there is Diana, who works with Blue Pearl, and she does grief, loss, and support. Those are the two that come up to my head, come to mind right now, and I can get their, yes, Blue Cross, that's it.
Yeah, I'm aware of Blue Cross. Yeah, they because they provide bereavement counselling, I think.
Yep. Yeah. So she does a lot of the animal grief counseling there. And then, like I said, Olivia does a lot of stuff with the veterinarians themselves. And she does a lot of talks and speaking engagements. So,
okay.
Might be close to London.
Do you happen, I mean, as a side note, do you have, if you have their contact details, are you able to maybe send me those?
Yes, yeah, for sure.
That'd be great. Yeah, thank you.
Yes. And I know 2 in Australia. That's a really big country to cover.
Yeah, I think, yeah, because I've made some connections there. And I think because Alicia Kennedy, I think, has the Cherished Pets. So she's a vet, she's a veterinarian, and I think she has, as part of her social enterprise, has developed like a little offshoot for veterinary social workers, which is emerging in Australia as well.
Yeah, she spoke at our last summit 2 years ago. It was a really cool program.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, British Columbia has some. We have one in, it'd be really cool to like do a map. I feel like they're really concentrated for some reason in Ohio. Bailey being one of them. And then in Canada we're starting to get more. British Columbia. Yes, so we could probably actually do it after the summit. So that's something that we're going to try to pull from the summit as well. Anything else? Any thoughts? Or these cafes always just get me excited for everything. We're hoping there will be a for our members on the second day of the summit. The IAVSW does their meetings, their biannual meetings, so that we give up any updates, talk about our fund management and all the statistics, but we also talk about all the upcoming things that we're doing and that are currently happening as well. So that will be open on the 15th for our members to join. Are there any topics or people that you guys would like to hear at the monthly cafes? As random as possible.
I think for me, because this was one of the questions I had at the beginning, is, you know, I was surprised actually to hear, you know, how you still have to promote yourself even where you are, where you pioneered veterinary social work and kind of where it all started, and you're still having to sort of, you know, fly that banner. And I guess for me, I'm really keen to know, you know, how you actually do promote yourself as, you know, private practitioners, self-employed, and how you do go about linking yourself to clinics or veterinary hospitals. So if you set yourself up as a veterinary social worker, and then what? You know, and I appreciate that a lot of that, you know, initial work is pro bono work, and that's fine. But how do you, you know, then develop yourself as a reputable professional?
Yeah.
So that I'd be interested, you know, to really focus on that and hear people's experiences of how they set themselves up and promote themselves and get work essentially.
Yeah, I think that would be cool to like have like a panel almost instead of just one person, just talking about the different ideas of people that are in private practice, because I think that's a common way to go. For a lot of people, you can just manage your schedule better and things like that. So yeah. I love a good panel too.
I'm finding that there are a few people that are coming out of graduate schools here that are promoting themselves as veterinary social workers, or and they don't have a veterinary social work background. They're coming out just in the animal field, but they're calling themselves veterinary social workers, but they're calling themselves veterinarian social workers instead of veterinary social workers. And so they're going to work in practices that work with animals, that are doing animal assisted therapy, but they're reaching out to veterinarians because it's becoming very well known now about the veterinarians and suicide rates and things like that. And so they're trying to help practices and doing that. And I think it's like any field that you're going to get people that are going to skip the steps in the ladder to get to where they want to be, and they're not going and getting certificates and doing what they're supposed to do. So it's going to be interesting to see. I started way back in 2000. Well, actually in the early 90s is when I got this passion to want to do this, long before I even got my social work degrees. And then I ended up going and just getting an animal assisted therapy and AASW social work degree because I couldn't go to Tennessee at the time. They didn't have the online. So I did mine finally when I could. But it's kind of frustrating because we take the time to get the education and to do what we're all doing. And then other people are then out promoting themselves after we've done all the work, kind of things. So it would be interesting at some point to find out what are the statistics, how many schools. I think in the United States, there's maybe 2 or 3 schools that actually have a veterinary social work program. And how many actual students are there that have actually graduated with certificates that have the actual background like we do? And how many practicing are there, which we'd find out through the association that we're a part of and things like that, that people are joining up. Because I mean, how many members are there now, and when it started, how many were there? Bailey, you're probably over there going, oh, okay, statistics here. But it's interesting because I find it interesting that people are posing. I don't want to call them posers because I know they have social work degrees, but it's frustrating because we've done the work and we've led the way. And I shouldn't say we, but Dr. Strand led the way years ago for us. And now people are just coming out with their animal backgrounds thinking they get the veterinary part, but they weren't in the schools at the veterinary hospitals meeting the veterinarians while they were there doing their certificates or whatnot. So And Rebecca, I appreciate your background and what you're saying is you're seeing this from afar, that there aren't people out there getting what we're trying to do. And it's a battle still. And
yeah. And I think too, it's a fine line, there is a line of needing to provide the education to all people that are going through the social work program, to like how to incorporate the animal human bond, how to be aware of it, how to include it in assessments and family trees and take this family member into account of the family system. But I mean, they might not have any interest in going beyond that, but they still need to be aware of it so that they know their scope of practice. So that they know, oh, there's actual people out there that focus on that, and I can refer out if needed. Because sometimes they might not even know that we exist, and so they try to do the work themselves. And I've come across that of like, oh, I do this and this. I was like, oh, you do VSW. This is what it is, and they're like, oh, no, I don't want to do that. I was like, but no, if you at least know about it, you can help increase the validity of it and the support of it. So there's sometimes education and gentle education and not so gentle education happening. But yeah, there's a line for that. Spreading awareness.
right. Well, the link was there before VSW started to spread, and the link is a part of us in the animal abuse piece, but it brings us all together. And that's where, like with child welfare, and that's sort of how I tried to connect them all when I went through grad school. And because we've got that animal abuse piece that connects to child welfare and domestic violence and that. But it's important because we learn more. That's a part of our degree, and a part of our certification is that whole piece with the animal abuse and the link. And it's important that people, my vet hospital didn't ever realize, I educated my hospital that I work in about the animal abuse piece. And the first time that they realized they needed to report, and they got an animal abuse case, and it was somebody's uncle that was, abusing a cat. And they were like, oh my God, Allison, thank you. No, thank you, Knoxville, for teaching me, what to do. And I wouldn't have known this from just my background, animal assist therapist kind of thing. And that's, I think, the critical piece of what we do as a VSW. We learn all of those things. And those are the things that we can work on as a social worker, that other people aren't getting that education piece. And that's why I find it's frustrating that people don't have our intensive that we go through, that we learn all the aspects of it. So
Yeah,
that's where the panel would be really good, to be able to talk about all the stuff that we do learn.
for sure. Yeah, and I know with the association too, we have goals to provide CEs, because we know that the certificate isn't accessible to everybody at like this moment, but they're still going through that work. So going back to the education piece of how do we at least provide them with the resources so they can start identifying these problems and then connect them now to this network that they're a part of. So that's definitely something that we're going to start doing soon, and providing different trainings and Cs to everybody. So the certificate program is a beast, but it definitely has helped. And like, I can't imagine doing this work without it. I mean, I think the network itself is just invaluable. So yeah, I'll definitely start thinking of panels. I think that would be a really good one. Yeah. I know coming towards the end for some very late nights for some of you guys. So I appreciate you guys taking the time and joining myself and Bailey tonight. It's always really nice to just talk with like-minded people. I hope to see most of you at the summit.
Yep. Augusta, can I keep you on for just a minute?
Of course.
Thank you.
No problem. And I'll be
Thanks so much, everyone.
messaging you guys with resources and stuff too, Rebecca. So
That's great.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Really good to see
Thanks,
you
guys.
again.
Bye, guys.
Bye, good
See you.
night.
Bye.
Thank you for following up with whoever in membership. And I did
Oh, yeah,
get
no problem.
I got an email from somebody and they told me that they would do the retiree thing. And then I tried to get on and do it, but it doesn't give me an option.
Okay.
And so I've emailed them back, but they're very slow to respond. I don't know the name of the person, a Sherry or somebody like that.
Yeah, Shelly, I can, Aviva
I would
too,
just
like
like-
sometimes we can do it manually where we have a PO box and you can send a check, because it's like the next town over from Aviva. And then we just
Yeah.
manually upload it.
Shelley is her name.
Okay, yep.
Yeah, and anyway, I would just, because I'd like to just get signed up for be able to sign up for the summit then. And, but it just doesn't give me that option to do the retiree membership.
Okay, yeah. Did you get the scholarship for the summit?
No, I haven't done any of that stuff. I'm way behind. I don't know if you can see, do I look really pretty with my little, I ended up my retina
Yes.
for, yeah, I ended up with major emergency eye surgery and was face down for 2 weeks. And then, yeah, and tomorrow I have to go back because I think I have scarring now that they'll have to go back in and laser off. You know, I'm just too old for this crap. That's just all there is to it.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Oh, but you know what? I'm plugging along and I'm excited. My B program is moving along. I've got somebody that's going to do, I forgot what you call it, and there's a word for it. You know, I'm getting someone that looks like they're willing, that we're going to sit down and get all the partners together, like all the,
yeah.
whatever you call it. My brain is just gone.
Yeah.
But we're going to interest groups together and we're going to put everybody together so we can just